Hey all, welcome to another video. This time around I'll be building a Lego Builder app, and I'll be using a pretty cool API I found on the internet where we can grab some different Lego parts, and I'll be building the front end in React. And since this series will be a little longer, I will split the series up into different parts, okay? This first part I will be creating the API, setting up the API, and in the next ones I'll be writing some React code, getting up and running with some basic components, okay? So as you can see here, I have a create React app where I have deleted some of the boilerplate, so I just have app.js in here. First thing I want to show you will be the API page. So the API page, or the API I'll be using, is ribrickable.com, okay? Here I went to the API section that kind of explains how to get up and running with the API. So all you need to do really is to set a header here with your API key, and then you are pretty much good to go. If you scroll down on this page, you will be able to see the documentation, all the endpoints here. We're only interested in the Lego endpoints here, okay? And I will be showing you guys this page later on, but this is just a quick overview, okay? So if we jump back into our app here, whenever we are dealing with an API in a React app, I always like to kind of put that logic into its own file, so we don't have to deal with too much API stuff going on in our different components, okay? So to start off, I just want to create a file, and I want to just call this file apa.js, okay? And in here, I want to set up a fetch object that returns some JSON, because we're dealing with a JSON API, so we're always getting back JSON, and we are always setting a header for authentication with our API key. So in order to avoid writing redundant code, we're going to be creating this fetch object, okay? So right away I'm just gonna define a constant here, call it fetch object, and this will be an async function taking a path. And in here, create a constant called result, and we are basically just gonna call fetch here on some URL, okay? And there is a base path that I'm gonna put in here. I'm just gonna copy paste it from the documentation. So if we go in here, we can grab this part, okay, and then put it here. This is our base path. So the first argument to our fetch object here will be the path that we are trying to hit. So we always have our base path, then we have the extra path added. So I can just put that path in here to get the complete URL, like that, okay? And as I mentioned, we also need some kind of authentication. So we need to pass a config to our fetch object, and that goes into our second parameter here for fetch. And the only thing we really need to pass is just a header. So we pass in our headers object here, and then authorization, and then key, and then our key here, okay? So if we go back here, I have my key here. Let's scroll up just so you guys can see it. Here we have the documentation, key, the key, okay? Put it here, There we go. Alright, that should be all for our fetch. Now, as I said, we're always going to return JSON, so let's await our result here and pass some JSON and then return whatever we get back then, like that. Okay, that will be our fetch object. This fetch object, we will use it whenever we are doing stuff. Okay, so let's try to return something from the API. A valid endpoint would be a category, because when we're building our Lego figure, we need to get some different parts. So we need to figure out what the categories are for the different parts. Like we need a head, we need lower part and upper body part. Okay, so categories will be pretty cool to get. So let's define an object here. I'm just going to put all our different API calls in an object. Okay, so let's define get categories here as a key. That will be an asynchronous function. And in here, we're just gonna say categories equal await on our fetch object, and then we pass in the path to get our categories. So if we look in here, scroll down, we can see that to get the categories, we need to hit the part underscore categories endpoint. Okay, so since we already have the first part up here, we just need to pass in that last bit, which is part underscore categories. Okay, now after we await that, we should have our categories, so we can return it like that. Okay, and in here we need to remember to export our API, and I'm just going to export it as a default. Alright, so if I go into app.js here, now I want to try to test to see if this actually works. Okay, so whenever we're dealing with some API stuff, we want to make use of useEffect, the useEffect hook. So let's pull that one in. Now in our app component here, we can call the useEffect hook like this and pass in a empty array here, so we only run it once. Okay, now we also need to import our API here. So if I write API, we get an auto import. Okay, now what do we want to call? We want to call get categories. We are interested in the categories, so okay, now this will return a promise, so we can put a .then at the end here, and then let's just try to print out our categories. Okay, like this. Now this is very simple, I suppose, but this should actually work. So let's save it and try to go to our Chrome, into our tab here. Oh, it seems like we are getting an error here. Okay, so it actually seems like we got the URL a little wrong. We actually need to add Lego here as well to our base path. If we save that now, I believe it should work. Didn't work. Oh, made an error. Okay, cool, now it works. Yeah, here we go, all our different categories are here, very cool. And if we have a look through these categories, we can see these categories are the ones we're interested in our app. So the head, the lower body, the upper body, all this stuff. We're gonna get back to that a little later. I want to go in here and make another API endpoint, just to show you guys what else we can get from this API. Okay, so let's make one called get parts. Okay, So in here we can get some parts, right? So let's just do a similar thing here, call fetch, await on our fetch object, and then put in our path here. So if we go to the documentation, we can see we just need to reach the parts endpoint. Very simple, okay? However, when we do this, we'll just get back a bunch of parts. It might not be super useful. We probably want to pass some query parameters to kind of specify our search. And here we can see all the different ones that we may pass in here, okay? And one which is interesting is the part.cat ID. This is the category. We can pass in the category ID here to get all the parts for a specific category. Just to make this versatile, however, I'm gonna make it accept any query parameters that we might have, okay? So let's put a argument here called query, and let's just default it to an empty array just in case we don't pass anything, so our program doesn't fail. All right. So to set up our query parameters, I'm gonna be using the URL search params object here. Okay, and I'm gonna go through the query params up here as follows. So I'm gonna be expecting to get an object with a key value pair. All right, and I'm basically gonna loop through these key value pairs now using object.entries. Okay, so I'm going to destructure out the key and the index of object.entries on our query object here. Okay, now we may add our different query parameters here by calling append on our URL search parameter object here. Okay, so first we pass in the key, then we pass in the value, right? So let's just call it value. That makes more sense. Okay, now now we just need to pass this. Okay, so on our query parameters object here, we have a toString method. So down here we can change it to backticks to put in our query parameters here. So we need to remember to add this question mark and then just put in query parameters to string like that. And we need to remember as well to return our parts like that. So now we should actually be able to call this. So if you go back to app.js, I'm just gonna, in our use effect, just call api.getParts as well here to see if it works. So we get back some parts. Let's just console log it for now. Make sure we can distinguish these console logs by putting some extra text here. Let's just put parts uppercase. Okay, save it. Go back to Chrome, go back to our tab here. Oh, we got our parts. Looks cool. We also got our categories here. Okay, so both are working. Now if you go here, results, we get all the different parts, okay? But yeah, that's a crazy lookup, just getting all the parts. It doesn't make much sense. So let's try out our addition here to add some query parameters, okay? So if we go back here, we can have a look at the categories. Now let's say what category you want. Let's get back some minifigure heads here. ID number 59, okay? ID number 59. So if we pass in 59 here, Okay, that will be our value. Now we need our key. To get the key, we should have a look at the API. So what was it? Part underscore cat underscore ID. So if I pass in part underscore cat.id here, I believe that should be left off, basically. Let's have a look. Go back. Oh, okay, we got back some parts. Let's have a look at what we got here. Oh, it seems like we're getting a lot of minifigure heads back here. So it seems like our curve parameters got passed in correctly here. And just to make sure everything is working, or just to make sure it actually got in here, we can console log our query params to string. Oh, see here, this is our query parameters string here, and it looks as we expect. Okay, very cool. We have our API up and running. Next step will be building some UI. Okay, see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one. See ya.